I am going to do one segment with my entire belief about circumcision, and then I'm not going to talk about it again. And so if anyone calls in or whatever, I'm going to direct them to what I'm about to say. The other day, yesterday, on yesterday's show, someone called in and asked me my opinion about circumcision. Now, I know this may come as a shock because I'm Jewish. I don't think about circumcision ever unless someone calls in and asks me about it. And so what I said essentially was, I don't have a strong position one way or the other. The last I checked, the American Pediatric Association said the benefits outweigh the risks, but it's not an issue of critical importance and parents should decide. And I just don't care to talk about it. I just don't care to talk about it. It's not super interesting to me. It's not a major political issue. The intactivists and whatever they call themselves, the anti-circumcision people, sent me about 100 emails in the last 24 hours. Half of them are overtly anti-Semitic. A quarter were subtly anti-Semitic, and the other 25 didn't appear to be anti-Semitic. But they all said I was completely wrong. This is savagery, all this different stuff. So I'll give you my opinion now on pros and cons. This is going to be everything I have to say about the matter, okay? And I want to mention, again, there are people who say I can't be listened to on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict because I'm Jewish. Okay. Well, if you're not Jewish, you're also biased, aren't you? This is like the people who would say, we can't listen to gay people about gay marriage. They're biased. Well, the people who aren't gay are also biased, right? By not being gay. And there's people who similarly say, I shouldn't be listened to on circumcision because I'm Jewish. I don't want anyone to listen to me on circumcision. I don't care about the issue. Last thing before I go into the details, wow, there's people in the chat already criticizing my opinion when I haven't even given it yet. What is wrong with people? Do you have brain worms? I haven't even given my opinion yet. What do you read? There's people saying my opinion is this. I haven't given my opinion yet. People are sick. So here's the other thing. I find it, I'm wondering whether there's any overlap between the anti-circumcision movement and the incel movement. And the reason I say this is in researching this issue today, after a lot of people wrote to me about it, it seems as though there are circumcised men who can't find a partner who blame the fact that their parents circumcised them for that. And then there are uncircumcised men who can't find a partner who blame society for conditioning women to prefer circumcised men. So either way, they're blaming the same thing, whether they're circumcised or uncircumcised. It's a little weird, okay? So that's another thing that I'm seeing. So now let's kind of get into each element of this. If we look at the pros, what would the pros be? Okay, there's reduced risk of urinary tract infections. What's the counterpoint? If you know how to handle the foreskin, the additional risk of UTIs from being uncircumcised is minimal. Okay, true. So it's a pro. It sounds like it's not an insane pro, but seems like somewhat of a pro. Phimosis and paraphimosis, two penile problems, are less common among those who are circumcised. Are these the most common conditions? No, but all right, it's a pro. Lower rates of STIs. Oh, but what about the fact that that's less common if men are told how they need to handle the foreskin? All right, I mean, it's a pro, right? I mean, decreased risk of STIs to some degree, and lower risk of penile cancer, a very uncommon condition. It's a pro. It's an uncommon condition, but it's a pro. And then socially, in the Western world, women say they prefer circumcision. Now, that is not a reason to do it. You could say, who cares what they prefer? What if they preferred men with 3 fingers? Would you go and cut off 2? I'm just telling you, if you wanted to argue for the pros, what they are, okay? Now, what are the cons that people cite, and what are the counterpoints to that? One of the positions of those who are against circumcision, as I understand it. Again, I don't care about this issue. Someone asked me about it on the show yesterday. 100 intactivists emailed me. Now I've researched it. One of the arguments against is it violates bodily autonomy. Children are being subjected to something which is irreversible, I guess. I've actually read you can reverse a circumcision. We're now really in the weeds, okay? Excuse me. The argument is this has a lifelong effect. You can't ever undo it. And children should be allowed to decide when they can understand it. So, couple counterpoints to that. One is adult circumcisions are extremely painful. And so the idea that deciding at 18 is the same as deciding at birth doesn't really make sense to me. And then the other thing I would say is it's not unique that parents make decisions for kids that are irreversible and impact the remainder of their lives. For example, vaccines. You can make the correct argument that getting kids vaccinated before they can decide for themselves irreversibly impacts them in that they now go through life having been vaccinated. If you're against vaccines, then you would say that has huge risks. If you're for vaccines, then you would say if you choose not to vaccinate them, now they might die of measles from something that's completely preventable. Decisions about surgeries. We've already made decisions with my daughter that she doesn't know what's going on. We're deciding, and the impact of so many of these things is lifelong. So I don't find the bodily autonomy issue unique to circumcision. I think it just is, it's called parenting, I think. Another argument is the circumcision is painful and there is a risk of complications. From what I've researched in the West, the risk of complications is almost zero. I mean, like it seems so close to zero that it's crazy. So that's not like super compelling to me. Another con would be that there is a loss of sexual pleasure because of the nerve endings in the foreskin. So I don't know anything about that. I think it's a hard thing to measure because most men are either circumcised their whole lives or uncircumcised. So it would be very difficult for them to compare. But every study I found on both sexual function and pleasure found either no difference or mixed results, where a similar number of studies find function and pleasure is higher one way or the other. So that one doesn't seem super compelling to me either. So my view is I find it a little concerning the degree to which those who are against circumcision hurl insults and often anti-Semitic insults, which makes me wonder, quote, what this is really about. That's one thing I'm wondering about. And I have not uncovered anything that makes me want to go out there and encourage anybody to either get a circumcision or not, or to get their child circumcised or not. I have many friends with boys. I have no clue whether they decided to circumcise. I don't care. It really makes no difference to me. So that's the totality of my opinion. It's not a compelling subject to me. And I think the plan will be if people bring it up again to me, I will just refer them to this segment. All right, everybody? Very good. Thank you very much.